Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Metro Development Assessment Panel meeting. My name is Clayton Hime. I'm the presiding member for the panel today. With me is Leah Donoghue, the deputy presiding member, and Ms. Jackie German, who's online as the specialist member. And we've got councillors Sakula and Marks on board online. I declare the meeting open at 1:04 p.m. and acknowledge the traditional owners and elders past and present of the land upon which we're meeting today. Panel members may refer to technical devices. They're just seeking additional information, so you may see that from time to time. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed. Apologies from Mayor Rossi and Councillor Kolzicki. There are no members on leave of absence, and minutes from previous meetings are available on the website. I'll seek a declaration of due consideration from members. Are all members, panel members, familiar with the material before you today? Acknowledge, please. Thank you. Thank you. Also, just to note that there was a Direction 13 response published on the 30th of April 2024. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest? You can acknowledge or indicate. All right. Thank you, Councillor. Moving on to item 3.1, which is the office warehouse building and associated site works in Robertson Avenue, Belmont. Presenter, Mr. Alan Stewart and Marina Colley. Fine. 3 minutes.
Thank you, presiding member. With me today is Marina Clayway, our consultant. Also today with me is our architect, Ben Waters, and client Anthony Bryson from Built Farm Capital. Our client's got extensive experience in the design and construction of warehouse projects and has completed some $40 million worth of similar scale projects in recent years in the metro area. And I think, first of all, it's important to emphasise that this is actually a really well-designed scheme for this site. It's a difficult site. It falls by some 6 to 7 metres across the site, and it's a very odd shape. So I think Ben, as the architect, has done very well to come up with a design that responds to those conditions. We were a bit disappointed with the city's design review panel. They were a bit somewhat fixated on the interface to the Water Corporation land to the rear. I don't want to dwell on this, but it was a bit unfortunate that some of the city's concerns were not addressed earlier in the process. But that's really what's led to the fairly detailed submission that I had to submit with only a couple of days before the RER was due. I think today we're really here to ask you to grant approval to this development, generally as per the city's alternative recommendation. And I think there's really only one issue of contention, that being the parking for the office and warehouse land uses. I don't think there's any concern about the self-storage units. The primary concern of the city seems to relate to the internal warehouse bays. There's 6 internal bays. In our view, these are no different to any garage parking situation. And in fact, they're no different to any car parking bay. It'll always be the case that a car park has to be used in accordance with its approved purpose, whether it's an external bay, a basement car bay, residential visitor parking, and an apartment complex. So these are all management issues. And I don't think the city's concern about potential unlawful use, if I can call it that, is a reason to actually not support those 6 internal bays. They will be line marked for intended purpose, which is to have a dedicated space inside the warehouse units for the actual business owner to park their car. These are not large-scale distribution centres with semi-trailers and the like. As with the client's other projects, the boutique scale warehouse units that will be occupied by small businesses. You know, the owner operator will be in there. Probably trades, for example, they'll run a small commercial vehicle, which will also be the staff vehicle. So being able to park it securely in the premises so they can load and unload goods and equipment at the start and end of the day, I think makes a lot of sense. And it's what the client's done in 2 projects in Guthrie Street, Osborne Park, which I referred to in my submission, one of the attachments, attachment 9, I think it is. So for these reasons, we believe the 6 internal bays are legitimate car bays that should be included in the parking calculations. As I said, it was raised very late in the process. So in my submission, in an effort to address some of the city's concerns, we included a revised set of plans showing how we can quite easily get 3 extra car bays on the site, 1 in the basement, 2 in the ground floor area. I noticed in the city's response yesterday, they don't support the 2 ground floor bays because the view is in front of the warehouse roller doors. It's not quite correct. What we did in those amended drawings, which are in attachment 2 of my submission to yourselves, the architect adjusted the width of the roller doors. So what we now have is a 3.6 metre clearance between the car bays outside, and the roller door itself is 3.2 metres wide. It's a bit narrow, but the client has advised it's a workable design and does not affect the operation of the units. You know, perhaps through the building detail design process, we might get up to 3.4 or something, but it's certainly workable, and it does not interfere. The car bay does not interfere with the access to the units, which, as I've said, they're not accommodated in giant semi-trailers and the like. Page 6 of my submission, I've got the table showing the car parking, the extra 3 car bays and the 6 internal bays. And if you are supportive of those extra bays and internal bays, then there's no car parking shortfall for the office and warehouse uses. The worst case scenario for those uses, if exclude the extra bays and the internal bays, would be a shortfall of 10 bays. In practice, however, the occupants of those warehouses will still likely park the car in there. It's probably going to be a trade vehicle, so there'll still be that opportunity. We're also maintaining 8 on-street verge parking bays. We did originally design more, which we felt worked really well, but again, late in the process, we were advised through the RER that the tech services didn't like some of those bays. So there will be 8 verge bays. The office bays will also be available on weekends for the warehouse users. And so all of those things combined, I think there's more than ample parking on this site. It's a good scheme, as I mentioned, good design. We don't think it will have any adverse impact on the amenity of this area as a result of traffic or parking, and the development is certainly capable of approval under the planning framework. So on that basis, we would ask the DAP to exercise discretion and grant approval as per the city's alternate recommendation, but with our suggested conditions if you think they're necessary. That was condition 11, I think there was an amendment, condition 2, sorry. And I suggested additional condition 26, should you wish to just get a bit more certainty around all of those car parking bays that I mentioned in the submission. That was all I was going to say. Marina is here. I don't think Marina was going to add anything unless she had some questions for either of us.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Panel members, questions of the presenter? Yes, Jackie.
I was interested in the applicant's thoughts on the city's proposed amendment to condition 26.
That's the amendment, I think, in the city's submission of yesterday. I think Mr. Payne will probably clarify. I think the position there was if the city's not, or the city's not accepting the internal bays or the extra bays, so, and ignoring all that, then you're back to the 54 car bays on the site. So I don't dispute the numbers in the city suggested wording. Well, I think we're on the same page in terms of what's there. Our view is, though, that the 6 internal bays plus the extra bays is why I've got the revised number of bays in my suggested condition 26. That makes sense.
So in effect is and the last officer's labelled it, in effect, their proposed condition 26, sort of a backdoor refusal for what you want to do?
The city's version of it?
Yes.
Yes, perhaps. It's probably saying that the DAP is inclined to grant approval there. That's a car base they think we've provided. But we still have the internal car base.
Yes.
And we still have put on the table by my condition version the extra 3 external bays,
Right.
1 in the basement, 2 up the top.
Okay.
So I hope that makes sense.
Further questions?
No.
How will you isolate the parking bay internally to stop it from being used as storage?
It will be line lights on the ground. That would be it. I actually had a discussion this morning. I mean, you could petition around it, so it looks more like a physical standalone garage if you wanted, if that was an outcome. But I don't think anything was really achieved by doing that. It's a car bay there. We've done it in the Guthrie Street projects. It's a convenient spot for the owner to park their vehicle. As I said, probably a trade vehicle, small minivan or a ute or something. So putting a petition around it, yes, it probably gives more certainty that it's a car bay, but it's probably less practical for that business owner to come and go.
Are these going to be strata units?
I don't think they're going to be strutted up. Yes, they will be strutted, yes.
So there could be something on the strata.
Could be a management statement with
Management
provision in there as an extra level of management and enforcement.
Okay, so that could be a condition requiring the strata
Yes,
plan to deal with strata management statement to incorporate that.
yes. Or a condition, I can't recall, there's one in there, like a management plan to be submitted. But even a normal planning condition that should there provide some of that extra surety, and that itself could refer to if it's strata titled, then the management plan.
Any further questions?
Just looking at in front of the warehouse units, where the roller door is, there are 4 cars identified as those. So that's a parking spot as well, or is that loading?
Right in front of the roller door.
Right in front,
Yeah, they're loading bays,
loading.
4 of them. So I've accepted the city's position that they're not car bays.
Yeah,
We've
because
called
I've
them
got a car
loading
there
bays.
and I was a bit confused about that.
So they are an addition as well to the parking that we're suggesting.
And then I was trying to find
Yeah.
where you referred to that, and foreground, there were loading
Yes,
bays.
correct. Yeah, that's the 4 there.
All right, thanks.
So that's further parking generally on the site that's available.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
I think Councillor Marks has a question, voting member.
Find where to get off this.
You're on. No, you're not. Just need to unmute.
Can you hear me now? Right. Okay. Look, I'm just interested in this condition 26. I'm not certain exactly what the gentleman's saying, but when you read it, he's declaring for 73 car parking bays and not the 80 odd that's required, the 86 that are required. I was interested in the last question, maybe the gentleman can point it out to me. The 4 or 6 car parking bays, he's got 2, there are internal bays and there are bays parked in the warehouse site used for loading. Now, these are to be considered parking bays within the site, I take it. I'm just interested into what happens, which of the bays he's not going to have if he's got 73. He's now going for 73 instead of 86. Which of the bays he's not providing? Could someone just point them out to me?
So what my condition 26 does, it spells out the exact number of bays that are on the amended plans that were attached to my submission in Appendix 2.
Right.
So that you have a condition.
So you're saying you're going to put 73 there and not the 86 that the councillors are saying is required. Is that right? Or the council saying?
Yes, that's correct. The reference is 73 car parking bays and the loading bays in that condition is exactly what's on the plans that in Annexure 2 to submission. The 86 number, and I think this is quite important, that assumes you apply the warehouse parking rate of 1 per 100 square metres NLA to the self-storage units. Now, I don't think there's any dispute from the city, and I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, that those bays are required because the city referred me to that self-storage parking study. That was the basis of that decision for a Great Eastern Highway project, where it was quite clear that self-storage does not meet 1 per 100 square metres. And the study talked about providing, I think it was 2 staff bays, an office bay, and 2 general use bays. We say we're consistent with that study, and therefore the 86 requirement, or whatever that number is irrelevant.
Okay. Further questions? No? Okay, thank you for that. We'll move on to the city officers. We'll please move over to the presentation location.
So the city doesn't have a presentation, so we would take on any questions by the way.
Okay, thank you for that. Questions of the officers?
Well, look exactly how many bays are you requiring to do that 86 is based on applying the calculation for a warehouse to self-storage. Exactly how many are you looking for?
So under the scheme, the city requires a total of 86 bays.
86.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Can you tell me something about that particular locality? Do you have a lot of complaints about parking in the street? Is this an ongoing issue of compliance?
Yeah. So based on the city's record, through the chair, sorry, based on the city's record, the city hasn't received complaints about parking in that particular locality. But that being said, there's been reviews from our infrastructure services about on-street parking along Robertson Avenue, and what they found is that during weekdays and working hours, that those on-street bays have been at least 50% capacity or being occupied or more. So whilst I can't say whether there's full occupancy and we have not received complaints about parking shortage within that vicinity, aerial images have consistently also shown, our infrastructure services data has also showed that the current on-street bays in front of Robinson Ave has been occupied during weekdays.
Further questions? You indicate the city's requirement is 86 bays. Do you accept that the parking study that was done for self-storage units would actually reduce or could reduce that number? So it's although your number is up to 86, you're accepting a lesser number would probably work.
That's correct. Through the chair, we certainly accept that lesser rate for a self-storage unit can be considered. And to that, our primary issue or concern was more towards the shortfall generated by the office and the 6 warehouse tenancies above ground. And more of that is to do with this being developed as a generic office and warehouse where there's no tenancy or any information on future operators on there couldn't be any, I suppose, information being gone upon on what capacity they'll be operating at. So hence the city's default position is that the minimum scheme requirements for the office as well as the 6 warehouse tenancies was met in the first instance.
Look, you have concerns with the internal bays for self-storage?
So we don't have concerns with the internal bays for self-storage. What we, in terms of the city's position, is that we don't consider those bays to be effectively managed to ensure their availability. But that being said, that really goes back to the city's points in that we don't necessarily have concerns on the shortfall associated with the self-storage units.
Any questions? Yes.
I'm just interested in the city's thoughts on a condition to manage the parking and whether that you feel that in your experience would work in that location. There was a condition that said to, a parking management plan to be submitted.
So that was recommended on the premise that if that accepts the shortfall as in front, and that accepts that the statements put forward by the applicant that some of these internal warehouse bays that they propose to be managed, that then this parking management plan helps ensure the availability of those bays.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Marks.
Can you hear me? The first question. Yes. Right. Considering this proposed condition 26, do you accept this condition as being correct, or are you saying that this still isn't correct?
Through the chair, I suppose it's the condition, the city's recommendation on the condition is on the premise of if the DAP accepts the shortfall that this government is proposing, that's how the number of car parking would be reflected as a minimum.
So they are saying that 13 bays, they've cut the shortfall to 13. That's with accepting the internal bays, which you don't seem to have a problem with, from what, if that's what I heard you say. Is that correct? You're quite happy with their internal bays, or not happy with the internal bays?
I suppose we're neither happy nor not happy or unhappy with the internal bays. We just consider that it would be challenging or difficult to manage the availability of those bays. So that's hence we don't consider those bays should be counted. Right.
Okay. So you're still of the opinion that these shouldn't be counted, even though you've got this recommendation from the parking study that suggests that they should be counted. Is that what you're saying, or the parking study? You're questioning the parking study. What's the position here?
So the parking study, from my understanding, was more informing general warehouse or self-storage facility units and their general parking demand, which my interpretation is that it sits, I guess, somewhat separate to the internal bays that they're providing.
Right. So you think there is a difference between what's being provided and what they were talking about in the study? Yes. Okay. Righto. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
On that, the condition 26 that you have provided in 13.
I can't hear anyone. Can you speak up there? I just can't hear it at the moment.
In relation to the condition 26 that the officers put forward in the R13, are those numbers, you think those numbers are achievable, including the internal bays?
So through the chair, perhaps we could start off with, just to clarify, is the presiding member referring to the number 73 bays, or the one that recommended by the city?
No, the 54. Is that? That's the one used in the R13.
Yep. Yeah. So firstly, with the 54 bays, as per our recommended condition 26, we actually calculated that based on the parking allocation plan within Annexure 1 of the applicant's submission, and that those 54 bays are achievable.
All right, thank you for that. Further questions? for the officers? No. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the item. There is a recommendation for refusal, and the reason is number of parking spaces are inadequate. Is there a mover for that recommendation? Councillor Marks, thank you. Is there a seconder? No. Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Marks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I must say that I'm disappointed that really what the council is saying is that only 53 or 54 bays are acceptable to them. I don't think that's anywhere near enough. I've looked at what has been put forward with the internal bays and the warehouse bays. I must say the internal bays, I just can't see how they work. That could be me, I guess, but I just don't quite understand how they would work if you had cars loading outside and cars inside. I just don't think that it's an acceptable situation. That's just what I've got to that consideration. With only 53 bays, I just can't see it going ahead. I am deadly upset that if you look at the design review panel, I think that's the worst result I've ever seen of a design review panel where it has actually finally made itself to adapt. Generally, people, before they get there, have worked out some way of coming to an accommodation with some of the things that the design review panel has said, but that doesn't appear to be the case here. So I can't see how we can go ahead with this as number one with the parking situation, number two with the design review panel situation. Thank you.
Councillor Stewart. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, I share a lot of what Councillor Marks has articulated already. I guess from my point of view, I look at the fact that the city's obviously got a framework through which it operates. It's quite clear and it articulates the parking side of things. It establishes the expectations well before a development and the planning side of things occurs. My thinking is that the developer and the designer need to take into account what that framework is and the expectations around that, because these things are designed in a very measured way. They reflect what is basically the need of the city on a broader level, and to be more focused in terms of this development as well. So I really do believe that in terms of the development side, that these things should have been taken into consideration much earlier than we've got to this point, and any discussions should have occurred earlier as well around this. The concern also I have is about the use of the verge as an option for unparking. I can't see how that can be successfully used for that development, given the fact that you can't prevent others from using that verge for their own needs. So I would be concerned about that as being an option. So I wouldn't support the development the way it is in terms of the parking, and I really do think that they need to give consideration to what the actual city has put forward in terms of the expectations in that space. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Further speakers?
C.R. Ryan.
Yes. Further speakers?
Okay, I hear all the comments from the councillors, and I understand where they're coming from. However, I think you do have a very difficult site. I too looked at what the DRP had to say, and I note that the city officers actually took a more measured view of the comments from the DRP, and in the RAR they talk about the fact that there were improvements made to the issues raised by the DRP, by the architect, and that they feel fairly confident that the proposal is acceptable. This is a warehouse office development, and I think a very difficult site. And I think that the architect has done a very good job on dealing with it. So I don't really think there's a reason to refuse it on the basis of design or bulk scale or anything of that kind. I do acknowledge that there is a parking shortfall. I don't necessarily agree that allowing people to park within the warehouse is going to be problematic. I certainly don't think that there is a need for excessive parking for the self-storage units, and I think that the applicant has worked reasonably hard to come up with a solution to what is perceived to be the parking shortfall. So on that basis, I won't be supporting a refusal at this stage.
Thank you. Further speakers? Yes, Deb.
I don't think that I agree that the self-storage units don't require the amount of parking that is required in the scheme, and a lot of the times the schemes are catching up with new developments. I feel that a parking management plan could manage that parking, so I wouldn't be supportive of the refusal.
And I too can't support the recommendation for refusal. I mean, firstly, the only reason given is shortfall in parking. Now, we quite often deal with shortfall in parking, so if that was a reason for refusal, then we'd be doing that almost in every case. I understand the councillor's comment about the framework being established prior to this proposal being put together, but the framework isn't a rigid framework. It doesn't have to meet that parking requirement. It is based on the merits of the situation. And I went out there today on the way to this meeting and had a good look there. And I think this is a good solution. I think it's a workable solution, as German said. I think the parking plan would solve a lot of those issues in terms of how the parking will be used. So from my point of view, I can't see that this is a suitable reason for refusal or one that I could support. So back to you, Councillor Marks, as the mover to wind up the debate on this one.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't agree with you, but that's my right not to agree, and your right to think of something completely differently. But I just think that's too much. Once you've got down to 53 and you're meant to have 86, I think you're overdoing it a little bit. I would like to have thought that they could have come to some little bit better idea of what it's about. I just don't think the parking is there, but that's just my opinion, and I accept what you all say. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. I'll now put the motion to refuse. All in favour? Against? Lost? 2. We'll move to the alternative motion, which is at the back of the responsible authority report, and I'll seek a mover for that alternative recommendation. We can deal with any changes. All right, you.
Okay, the first change will be to condition 11, and point A will be the approved plan as amended by condition 26.
So condition 11 to
refer to condition 26.
Refer to condition 26.
And then insert condition 26 as retail quality.
Right, yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So inserting condition 26 as proposed by the applicant. The Donahue has moved that. Is there a second for that? Thank you, Ms. German. All right. Leo, to you.
Look, I don't have much more to say on this. I do make a comment about utilising the bird for parking. I appreciate the council, the officers I'm a bit concerned about reversals of vehicles, but this sort of parking is found throughout the metro area, and I think it's a really good solution in that particular location, since it's going to be landscaped as well. And I think that was all I really wanted to comment on. So,
Okay, thank you. Jackie, a second?
Yeah, I was supportive of the development. I think that is a difficult site. I think that the parking can be managed with condition 4, which is requiring parking management plan, which the city seems to have foreseen, together with the modifications.
Thank you. Further speakers? No, I turn supportive of the recommendation as presented with those minor changes. I suppose just to pick up on a point that Councillor Marks made earlier, in a way, while it is 86, in a way that's slightly a false number, because parking studies have shown that these self-storage warehouses have an entirely different demand to normal warehouses. So I think all that's happening here is that the 86 is coming from correct or straight application of the warehouse, normal warehouse requirements. So that's all I've got to say. No further speakers. I'll go back to Mr. Donoghue to wind up with the vote. No further comment. I'll put the recommendation for approval with conditions. All those in favour? Against? That's carried 3-2. Thank you very much. There's no, well, listed set applications. Supreme Court Appeals. Is there any general business? No. Okay, I have to ask that. Okay, then I declare the meeting closed at 1:40. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you.